Okay, welcome to Into the Channel, a podcast primarily about women's football. Before we hit the pitch, if you enjoy the show or love women's football as much as your boys do, subscribe already or follow us YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to watch or listen. Comments, ratings, reviews, all of them always appreciated at ITC_pod on X, at Into the Channel pod on Threads. I am your host, Dino Cespedes, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Grant Engel. What is up, man?
Buddy, it's a glorious day. Football was really footballing these past couple days, and it was enjoyable to watch. I feel it in my bones. As some people might know, regular viewers of the program, this is a road match for me right now, but I got the setup going. I'm ready to talk about these matches.
It's match day 5. Let's fucking go. Where do you want to get started?
Well, I think there's probably an obvious starting point for the Into the Channel program. Let's just get it out of the way. Brann advancing to the knockout stage of the UEFA Women's Champions League for the first time. An incredible, historic achievement for the club. It was extremely cool to see their away supporters on the broadcast, chanting, singing, really making their presence known. All of our viewers, who I just cannot believe I'm even using the phrase, all of our viewers, like, we just appreciate you guys. It was super fucking cool that you guys reach out to us and we're talking about the matches, we're talking about the players, talking about the kits. So it would be insane to start this broadcast with anything other than Brann 1, Slavia Praha 0.
Let's go.
So, all right. I mean, I might as well crack it. I mean, we might be in for a 2-beer program also with the celebration that's going on. Who knows? I'll make sure I keep it professional. Brann came out there ready. Just like your boys try to, just like the fans obviously did. Again, I mentioned you could hear them on the DAZN broadcast singing throughout the match. You know, Praha, their ground is super cool looking, by the way. I like the big advertisements behind each goal, and it just seems like a pretty cool environment there. But you could hear the Brann supporters the whole time. And Raquel Engelsvik, she obviously felt it too. Brann pushes the ball immediately down the field in the first 120 seconds. I don't know, maybe I want to backtrack on Raquel Engelsvik feeling it. I don't think it was just pressure, but man, she missed a sitter in the second minute. The ball comes to her, a really nice run of play to get there. It went from Kavam to Krummer to Gaupset, who we will mention later, and then over to Raquel Engelsvik, and she just missed it, man. And as bummed as I was to see that in the first 2 minutes, they moved the ball so quickly down the pitch. I was like, okay, at least that's a good omen.
I agree with you. There was a lot of talk about, we covered it on the pod last week, with regard to, I think, them just needing a draw to advance, and to see them just kind of come out and be like, yeah, on the road, unfamiliar environment, we don't care, let's fucking go. I was encouraged by the early attack.
For sure. And I think the early attack, speaking of it being a good omen, that was just kind of like a theme throughout that first half. The word that I just kept going back to was, this squad looks fucking confident. In everything that they're doing, all their passes, all their slide tackles, every time they're going for 50-50 balls. Justine Kieland was just firing shots from distance. I remember, if you think all the way back, if we rewind back to that first match against Lyon, and she scores that goal and looked kind of surprised when she scored it. I think when she's 20 or 20, she's somewhere between 20 and 22 years old, something like that. And she looked surprised scoring a goal against Lyon, and now she's just out here oh yeah, I'm 22 yards out, I'm ripping this. Watching that confidence blossom has been awesome. They were playing corners into dangerous areas. This is a team that doesn't just look like they can play with anybody. They look like a team that wants to play anybody, that's ready to play anybody, not scared.
I mean, it's because they're not scared.
100%.
That's the best part.
Yeah.
We'll get to Group C later, but I think all of the equity in Group C has created a little bit of a nervy environment over there, where just the tension is all the way maxed out. And Brann's just the opposite. They're out here, they're running, they're kicking, they're pushing, they're shoving.
Yeah.
And they're just ready, man. Like I said, the early offense was pretty inspiring, that level of aggressiveness. And we'll get to Aurora Mikkelsen in a minute here, but she was out of her mind.
Great.
I had the Benfica match on the main screen, at Brann on second screen. So I'm watching both pretty equally. And every time I look over, Mikkelsen is just flying through the air, just denying everything, smacking herself on the post. She didn't really care. She was just real aggro about it too. She was barking, and she was treating it like it was the final. And I think that level of intensity, you just love to see that, because they're ratcheting it up with each match. They want to go into the knockout stage, I mean, as sharp as a blade. And I think that's just kind of really exciting to see.
100%. I'm glad you mentioned Mikkelsen too. I mean, she almost cracked herself on the post multiple times, just laying out for some of those shots. Even then, Brann held the ball for 73% of the first half. And it felt like it. It looked like it. Praha had 4 shots, felt like fewer than that. I think they had 2 shots on target in that first half. One was an effort by Krejcirkova, who, we now call on this podcast K-Dot, because my fat American tongue really struggles with Krejcirkova, even though I feel like I'm getting better at it now that I say it.
I like it.
K-Dot, nice player for Praha, absolutely. She took a good rip at it from she had to be nearly 40 yards out. And I respect her skill for hitting it that sharply and that on frame. But you're not beating Aurora Mikkelsen from 40 yards out. No chance. Not that day. And probably not any day. Talking about Praha some more, I'll raise my hand, maybe a little American bias, but their left back, Michelle Shaw, continued to impress. Second straight match that I thought she looked really good. Her American teammate, Molly McLaughlin, looked really good in the midfield. That was a bright spot for Praha, I thought. Zhao played a really threatening corner in on the first half, but Mikkelsen was able to make another diving save. I think that was one of the ones where she almost cracked her skull on the post. She saved the shot by Franny Cerna. So I want to make sure that we're not all Brann all the time, because Praha, they were trying to give it a run. They were just getting overwhelmed out there. I don't mean this in a disrespectful tone to Praha. They're overmatched. I don't think anybody expected that out of Brann, to really be overmatching anybody entering this tournament. And that speaks to their growth and just how confident they are.
Coming out of halftime, the announcer mentioned it again, them being the 64th ranked UEFA coefficient team. It's just it's impossible to wrap your head around. This is obviously our first foray with Brann, this whole Champions League group stage experience. And I just don't understand how that's possible. They just look so good.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I want to get to 2 quick things before we get over to the second half. One, Cecile Cavame, who was a part of that build-up when Engelsvik missed that sitter in the second minute. Cavame had an absolutely gorgeous chip that hit the left post. I want to say it was around the 42nd minute or something like that. She had Lukasova completely beaten. Mm-hmm. And it was an audacious and well-executed effort. It felt like the ball hitting the post there was unjust, but that is because, I'm in the tank for Brann, and I was just oh, unlucky, come on. That was a little bit of a bummer to see. But speaking of injustice, we cannot gloss over this. I got to hear what you think about it, because as we talk about this sport kind of developing and the broadcasting kind of catching up to other broadcasts, at the death of the first half, Praha has a corner kick, and the ball gets buried in the back of the net. There's a big jumble. I got to say, Praha's corner kick strategy of put 9 people on top of Aurora Mikkelsen if we can was one of the funniest strategies I've ever seen. That is and I don't mean this pejoratively, but that is high school American soccer type, just try to confuse everybody. Just get everybody within an 8-yard radius and see what we can do. So the corner kick comes in. Everybody's jostling everybody. We don't have a good look at it from the DAZN broadcast over here in the USA. The ball goes in the back of the net. I sink into my seat oh, shit, that's not great. And then the ref calls it off. You get the immediate objections from the Praha players, but it didn't last that long, and they kind of just carried on with it. I was trying to look at the angles. I don't know if Praha players are tugging jerseys, trying to stop people from leaping. It looked like on one of the 2 angles that we had from the DAZN broadcast. I'm not accusing American Haley Stackpole of this, but it looked like the ball might have glanced off her hand, but I don't even have a good view of her hand from that angle. And so maybe she tried to fucking Diego Maradona in with hand of God style and punch it into the fucking net. What did you see there? Because I don't know what I saw.
Well, I mean, if I'm being fair to Praha, I saw a little bit of injustice on that call. I mean, I'm sure some of our friends on Twitter or YouTube will chime in with a more comprehensive explanation on maybe what they saw or what they think happened or what they know happened. But I don't know. I watched the play maybe 7 or 8 times, like you said, on the DAZN broadcast. And I just had a lot of trouble seeing anything other than the ref just being nope, not a goal. And I was oh, okay. Yeah. Could use an explanation there. But that's if I want to be fair. And who cares about being fair? As a Brann head, let's fucking go. Doesn't matter. Refs miss calls. Get on with it. I think it'll just kind of go down as one of those things where maybe we just never find out what happened. But in reality, it was softened a little bit with regard to the storyline for me, because that would have just put them up 1-0. Spoiler alert. Brann gets a goal a little bit later. And again, it wouldn't have changed the results with regard to, I mean, maybe this match, yes, but the group stage, no. So I think all's well. We can kind of move past it. We joked earlier in the group stage about like the VAR, no VAR, kind of happy not to have it. But one thing I have noticed is it just feels like oftentimes there's like one referee and like no support. The referees are making these decisions kind of unilaterally. There's no collaboration. And, there's been a lot of like offsides and onsides mix-ups, as well. And not saying that I want to go back and litigate, because like in the Premier League, it's really awful. Like really, like they're going back a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Oh, was there a foul 4 minutes ago in the lead up to the lead up to the lead up? And it's like the worst fucking thing ever. Yes. But we could use a little bit more ref support, I think, in some of these high leverage matches.
I think that is the perfect point. I think that the ITC podcast not stumping to put VAR in the way of these matches, build out the refereeing infrastructure so we got a couple more sets of eyeballs, and then I think we're in better shape. I totally agree with that.
Yep.
So going into the second half, real quick, to touch on your point too, like Brann came back to go level with Lyon. So even if Praha goes up 1-0, I feel like Brann probably still gets a goal, and they might fight. You might have just pissed him off and they might win 3-1.
Very possible.
So going into the second half, Mikkelsen makes another great save at the 62nd minute to keep things level. She is kind of creeping up there. I'm glad you pointed her out earlier. I mean, Inadozie, who we'll talk about later.
Hello.
I feel like she's pretty much making it known that she might be the best keeper in this tournament. Karina Schluter for STP has really shown a lot despite current results that we'll talk about later. But I think Aurora Mikkelsen has kind of elevated herself as one of the great keepers in this tournament too. But then the aggression pays off, the constant control, the constant attacking from Brann pays off. Sinja Gopset drives the ball, starts moving across the end line, fires in a cross. And Lukasova, who has comported herself really well during this tournament as well, she gets an unfortunate touch, hits it with her left hand, and it takes just the weird bounce and somehow goes into her own net. A bummer for Lukasova, not a bummer for any of the Brann supporters. And it's deserved, man. Like, them being up 1 goal, let's say even Praha gets that goal off a corner, it could have been 2-1 at that point from some of the other opportunities that were just like a little unlucky from Brann. Like, it felt like Brann with a 1-goal lead was just at that moment of the match.
Yeah, I agree with that. One quick final note on Mikkelsen. I went back and I had to check these stats. This Brann side, and I think you've done a great job kind of shouting out their back line. They've given up 6 goals in 5 Champions League group stage matches. Sounds pretty good. And then you consider that in those 5 matches, 2 of them were against Lyon.
Yeah.
Who routinely hangs 6 or 7 goals on teams all the fucking time. Yeah, again, shout out to Aurora Mikkelsen. 18 saves off of the 24 shots on target she's faced in this group stage. And again, 180 minutes against that Lyon attack. That's no fucking joke.
Come on now. That's great. Totally agree. Like you said, 2 matches against Lyon, 5 goals against Lyon. Not bad. And then from there, once Brann goes up 1-0 in the second half, I thought they just continued to play possession. They didn't like, okay, we have a 1-goal lead. Let's sit back. Let's try to park the bus or anything like that. They continued to try to hold the ball. I thought Amelie Eikeland did a nice job linking up with Holland and Engesvik to help kill the clock at the end. Eikeland was a nice substitution to kind of put some energy back into the side. And I just think my biggest takeaway from this game is whatever style you want, whatever weather you're going to play in, Brann's going to do it. They're going to figure out like what it takes to get the job done, and they're going to work super hard, taking away what you do well, sort of, but just also just making life really shitty and difficult for the opponent. Like you were saying, like they're going to elbow you, they'll give you those little elbows in the ribs. They'll shove you. They'll push you around, but then they're also going to try to race past you every opportunity that they get. So however you want it, that's how you might get it from Brann. So be careful what you ask for. Obviously, Barcelona is not losing any sleep over anybody. But for the 4 teams that win these groups, if they are drafting who they're going to face in the knockout round, Brann is the last pick.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just not a fun 90 minutes to go at them. And I think you're kind of looking at it, you're like, oh, I don't know if I want those problems. Can we beat them? Yeah, I think we could beat them, but we're going to take a beating for our troubles.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and now Group B pretty much sewn up. Lyon takes the group. Brann will go in to the knockout stage as the 2 seed, which means we might see them against a Chelsea or, like you mentioned, a Barcelona, maybe a PSG. And I am in total lockstep with you. I think every team's going to look at this Brann side and at least say to themselves, we can get beat by them if we don't come out here and bring our A game. I'm going to be really interested to see how one of these 1 seeds approaches these Brann matches in the quarterfinals, but that's for a different day. Today we kind of celebrate our squad advancing. Quick note to our audience. So my guy Grant did a little bit of a cursory research on how we can get Brann jerseys, to kind of rock on the show leading into the knockout stage. If anyone's got a line on that or a way that we can have something sent out here to the US, obviously we'll pay for it and cover the cost, but we ran into some logistical issues, but that is something that we want to do, especially having to do with those killer midnight black jerseys that just look, I don't know, it was like fucking having 11 Batmans out there just terrorizing.
Hell yeah. Yeah, 11 Batmans. That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about the black Roma jerseys are really sick too, but those Brann jerseys, man, just fantastic. And it helps when they're out there just bullying people too. So always
so intimidating.
Yeah, the logistical issues, like I found, and we talk about, again, this is an emerging sport and all that. I found some websites and then I was like clicking. It was like, oh, sorry, we don't ship to the USA. And I was like, oh, damn. Okay, we're still in that portion of the proceedings. So that's understandable. But yeah, if anybody knows something that we don't know, hit us up. We'll, as Dino said, we're down for the cause. So we'll cover all the costs. I like that shout out. I did not expect that from you.
Let's zip through the other Group B matchup. St. Pölten 0, Lyon 7. Lyon by a touchdown in this one over St. Pölten. My question to you, Mr. Grand Angle, did we learn anything?
Not really. Lyon is awesome. We knew that. Ada Hegerberg's one of the greatest players who ever lived. We knew that. They started aggressively. STP lined up in the 5-4-1 formation, which I wrote as that match started. STP lines up in 5-4-1, also known as the, quote, can we keep this to like 4-0 formation, which they could not. And you know what? No shade to STP. They played well in their last match, and they're a good side. It's just, what the hell are you going to do? Ada Hegerberg is out there trying to play one touches over her head. They're out there trying trick plays. When you have Basha and Carpenter, this really revealed itself to me. When you have Basha and Carpenter on the left side and the right side of your defense, those are two of the fastest players in the tournament, it feels like. And they are just flying. And even then, not just on offense, they'll push up on offense, and then their recovery runs, they're snuffing out any kind of counter you have because they're so goddamn fast. But I also think we largely knew that. So did we learn a lot? No, Lyon is going to score. I'll just say one more thing about that. Later in the match, and we've talked about Vicky Becchio since she was really excellent as a super sub in the World Cup for France. She was a menace during this whole match, who had multiple goal involvements. The 70th minute, here's my notes. Woo, sign of relief for STP as Becchio's taken off in the 70th minute. Oh no, wait, here comes Kariratu Diani. And it's just like, what do you do at that point? So, long way of saying, I don't think we learned a lot. Lyon's awesome.
Yeah, we did know that. Hegerberg, she was everywhere in the first half. I mean, she was just out here reminding everyone within earshot, you can't hold me.
Nope.
Did whatever she want. She's just always in the right spot, and then it looks like the ball is just drawn to her.
Yep.
But again, it's because of her elite positioning and understanding of just the geometry of the game. It's just on another level. She's a legend, one of one. Speaking of substitutions that gave St. Pölten a little bit of a respite for maybe 2 seconds before they figured out who was coming in. Hegerberg comes off at halftime only to be replaced by, let me check my notes here. Oh, Eugénie Le Sommer.
Come on,
Come
man.
on. It's just okay.
Yeah.
It's like a cruel joke. It really is.
Absolutely. And let me just make sure that I have this right. I mean, they scored 7 of them things, so let me make sure. Yeah, I mean, Le Sommer doesn't get on the score sheet, but she was absolutely a menace out there. But, Diani comes in the 70th and she scores in the 83rd because she is allergic to not scoring a goal when she's on the pitch. So it's an embarrassment of riches over there. One more quick thing. Shout out to DAZN. I know you have noticed this also. DAZN does these quick halftime interviews. They take one player, ask him one question, and they talk to Damaris Egarola at the halftime interview. I just have snippets of the quote. I didn't transcribe it all. But she mentioned that the squad, quote, wanted to come out with a lot of energy. And then she also mentioned, quote, things were complicated in Norway, end quote. And they're still pissed off about that draw against Brann, and I'm just going to take a guess that the leaders on that squad, probably people like Eugenie Le-Sommer and Ada Hegerberg, have not let them forget, along with their manager Sonia Bonpaster, we maybe shouldn't have drawn with Brann. Well, I got news for you, Leon. Brann's out here not fucking around, but I think that was something that they used as a motivation to come out here and win 7-0.
Yeah. Fucking right, things were complicated in Norway.
Goddamn right. It wasn't going to be any other way.
Yeah, a couple quick notes. The Madozan goal, Lyon's 5th goal, just filthy. I mean, the corner comes in, pretty much a mishit that goes awry. She just happens to be standing at the edge of the box, and an absolute rope from her for the 5th. Then Diani, I think maybe 4 or 5 minutes later, she gets on the score sheet. And then Sarah Dabert's out of this world for the 7th. I usually have a really good eye for like the geometry of the ball. Like I have the same thing with basketball where almost all the time I know immediately whether a ball is going in or not, just from the release and the spin or the bend in this case.
Yep.
And DeBritz's second goal was so wicked. Mid-flight, I'm like, oh, damn, she almost got a second one here. Oh, never mind. She nailed it. Like it just had such a nasty curl on it. That was unbelievable. Brace here, brace there. 7-0 Lyon. I'm dying to see what they look like in the quarters when they're not taking, and no offense here, when they're not taking on the Prahas or the St. Pöltens anymore.
Yep.
But they're going to be a nightmare to deal with for whoever they get matched up with in the quarters.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I think if you're that kind of squad too, you look at it and say, okay, now the tournament like really, really starts.
Yep.
This is winning time now. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so match day 6. Like I said, everything's locked in. So those will be a couple of exhibition matches for everyone involved. And let's shift gears to Group C, the group of many names, the group of life, the group of death, the group of rebirth, the group of re-death. Roma 2, Bayern Munich 2. This one was a fucking roller coaster. Roma gets on the board first when, stop me if you've heard this one, Manuela Giuliano pounces on a loose ball, finds Valentina Giacinti, who smashes it into the back of the net.
Yes.
1-0 Roma. That was the score at the half. Now, what was wild about this scoreline, if this result held, now granted PSG and Ajax were a couple hours away from kickoff, but this 1-0 scoreline actually moved Roma into first place in Group C from 4th.
Amazing.
Group of life. Fast forward to the 87th minute, sublime ball from Pernille Harder finds an almost definitely top 100 player in the world, Leah Schuler, skies through the air, that crisp Italian evening air to thump home the equalizer. Live table update, Roma falls from first, back down to 4th. 6-ish minutes later, beautiful 1-2 on the right side between Gliona and Roma captain Elisa Bartoli before Manuela Giuliano slams home another no-doubter to put Roma back up 2-1. And hooray, Roma shot out of a cannon again, back into first place in Group C. 3 minutes after that, Bayern earns a free kick from a really choice spot on the pitch. Julia Gwynn puts a ball in so perfectly that all I had to do was get the slightest of grazes off of Leah Schuler's head to find its way into the Roma net. 2-2, Roma back down to the dregs of Group C, the aptly renamed Group of Death. And very fittingly, this one ends with the exact same scoreline as their Matchday 1 affair, 2-2. So, Mr. Grand Angle, outside of watching the rise and fall of the Roma Empire multiple times over within the same match, what else did you find interesting about this one?
Love the back and forth style in this one. You make a great point about Roma just kind of like sitting back, running really threatening counters. They pretty much decided like we don't need all of the ball in this one to come out and win. That's about as fucking bonkers of a final 20 minutes of a football match as you can have. To just have 3 goals in that span, lead changes, the table shifting, like everything is happening in those moments.
That was the real kicker, no pun intended. Like, it's the live table getting just flipped upside down and downside. Like, I mean, it was insane. And then for it to end 2-2 with the same scoreline, I just got a total kick out of that as well. But yeah, I think you hit it. This was a match in which, Bayern dominated possession, but I felt like Roma dominated the game.
Yep.
Roma was happy, like extremely happy to defend and give themselves a chance to run and counter. And Bayern was counting on their superior skill and precision in the final third. In the end, I think both sides were a little right and a little wrong about their strategy. And now both find themselves on the outside looking in of Group C. A little bit of Champions League permutation here. Both teams still alive. This is a group of life.
Of course.
Roma heads to Amsterdam to take on Ajax next week. Roma needs all 3 points, and they also need Bayern to either lose or draw their home match against PSG. In that scenario, PSG wins the group, and Roma grabs that second spot. So Roma still very much alive. If Bayern beat PSG, again, Bayern will be at home for that one, and Ajax in their home match against Roma either loses to or draws Roma. Bayern wins Group C, and PSG also advances with them.
Okay, I think I got all that. I mean, that's the beauty of the live table, right? It is relatively straightforward. I appreciate that explanation. I mean, group of life, man. This is probably as great as Brann is as a story. After watching like the first two matches, it was pretty much like, okay, Brann is relatively young in spots and they're going to come up. But I had a pretty strong feeling they were going to finish second. Group C is just a roller coaster. Like, I think we've used every single cliche we could possibly use to describe it. And I love Group of Life. Group C is a fucking celebration of life. I can't imagine being like a diehard for supporter for one of these clubs and just hold the two feelings of I feel so alive and I want to die at the same time. As like I think this is the group of the tournament. It's just been fantastic.
You know, just getting to watch Roma fight and claw back. We talked about it last week. You know, like what's Bayern going to do off of a little bit of rust? I think 34 days between matches for them.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about Leah Schuler. In my head, she was super pissed about the Guardian Top 100. She might not even know about it. But yeah, I mean, still a lot of great action. I cannot wait for next week for all four of these teams to get busy again. And with that said, let's stay in Group C. In this one, a little less drama. PSG 3, Ajax 1. 6 minutes in, Sandy Baltimore, Philly mob boss gets cooking. Brilliant dance up the right side to give herself a chance to cross the ball in, which finds Marie-Antoinette Katoto for an incredibly acrobatic finish, overhead kick, back across the goalkeeper. One of the best finishes of the entire group stage. One of the best finishers on the planet. 1-0 PSG. 25th minute, Grace Guerrero picks the pocket of Chastity Grant right at the halfway line. Really quick hit ahead to PSG's closer, Marie-Antoinette Katoto again. 2 perfect touches from her. Perfect strike into the far corner. 2-0 PSG. Katoto just terrifying with the ball at her feet, man. I mean, what do you even do in that situation? She's just an absolute freight train.
With so many great number 9s in this tournament, it's hard to even rank them. Katoto has to be on the shortest of short lists there. Like, she has to be up there. She's too fast. She's too smart. She's too skilled. She is not afraid to track back and be part of the buildup. She is as close to a perfect number 9 player as you could have.
I agree with that. And I think she's just such a lethal finisher.
Hell
and
yeah.
In a one-on-one scenario, she's dominant. It's like Shaq in the post. It's just like you cannot defend her with one person. The captain, Grace Guerrero, who gets the action started, she also just keeps coming up huge in big games. I mean, talked about some of these pangs of regret with our starting 11. You know, Inadosi's probably in the mix there. Bosch is in the mix there. Guerrero, I think, right there with somebody that was real hard to leave her off my list just because she's playing so well. But again, we're in 2024, so maybe she makes my 2024 list. Let's fucking go. 31st minute, 40 yards away from the goal. Rome Luchter from Ajax wedges the ball away from PSG's Claire Hunt. Takes it coast to fucking coast. One against everybody. Doesn't matter. Luchter up the left-hand side. Sharp cuts it inward toward the center of the field. All the action flowing right, and she intelligently blasts it bottom left. Beats the keeper, Kijernik. Ajax cuts the lead in half. 2-1 PSG, and now we got ourselves a game.
I'm going to do a quick ITC petition here. I thought Lily Johannes had a really mature play right before that Luchter run. And you're dead on about Luchter. That fucking strike that she hit, just a peach. Just absolutely fantastic. But right before that Luchter run, Johannes takes the ball off of Samora. I'll back up a little bit. Sandy Baltimore looks like every time she's streaking down the field like she's shot out of a goddamn cannon. She drives the ball way down, gives the ball back to Samora, and Johannes has the presence of mind to come, get in perfect position, body Samora off the ball, and play the ball forward. It gets touched out of bounds, and then that kind of sets up Luchter going on that run. So I'm going to petition the ITC record book. I think Johannes deserves at least a hockey assist, maybe even assist. The way she cut out that other run, the Luchter run does not happen if not for Johannes' smart, aggressive defensive play there.
Yeah, great call. I mean, full cosign on the assist. We don't even know hockey assist right here.
There we go. I like it.
Lily had an awesome game.
Yep.
When she's on the ball, she's just seeing passes too.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's just passing it to where she wants you to go so that the offense could keep flowing, you know, and it's sort of like she's putting the ball where nobody else in that area is kind of like looking at that spot, but she's seeing it, putting the ball there. And then once you know it, Ajax player runs onto it and now they've got some action going. She's just so slick. You know, in basketball, we talk about like basketball IQ.
Yep.
Her football IQ is just not that of a 16-year-old. I mean, it's really, really off the charts.
I know you're an Arsenal fan. Switch gears, Premier League. You can say it. It's Guardiola ball. She plays Guardiola ball. You can say it. It's fine.
Moving on. 40th minute. Tabitha Chewinga. Speaking of streaking up one of the sides, shot out of a fucking cannon, she was just too much to handle for Ajax up the left-hand side. Their wings, I mean, just the both of them are a freaking nightmare. And then you have Katoto just hanging out in the center of the field. Gayoro, like, providing service. Karshawi providing service from the opposite side. I mean, they're just a nightmare. Chewinga just flat out runs away from Isa Cardinal, finds a sprinting Katoto in stride. Her one-timer stuffed by Regina Van Eyck, who was under pressure from jump in this one.
Yeah.
Pretty good showing considering. But Grace Guerrero, the captain, she was right there to smash home the rebound. 3-1 PSG. That was all in the first half, and that's how this one ended. Another certified cracker, by the way. I don't know, what were your main takeaways from this one?
PSG's dangerous, man. I think you nailed it. So you just look at that core six. Baltimore, Katoto, Chewinga, Gayoro, De Almeida, Karshawi. You're covering every inch of the pitch.
Yep.
And they're linked up. They're in lockstep. They're super fast. They're mean. Like, they are aggressive and physical. Like, I noticed, like, Karshawi in the World Cup, she plays with an attitude back there that sets the tone for your back line. And we've already talked about De Almeida, her battles with Giacinti in the Roma matches. So they check every box, man. We'll talk about Paris FC later, but good football being played in Paris. And yeah, I mean, PSG, this is the group of life and possibly the group of death. I would expect PSG to make it through. That's another squad wouldn't be psyched about matching up with in the first round of the knockout stages.
Not at all. Yeah, I thought PSG's athleticism really won the day here.
Yeah.
And it's the same athleticism that I'm having a hard time actually verbalizing this because I know there are monsters looming everywhere.
Yeah.
It's the same athleticism that I think might help them win this tournament. I don't know, man. They look like they're going to be real hard to deal with.
Let's go.
I just couldn't get over the fact that they chased down every single loose ball in this match. And I'm not talking like 50-50 balls, but like 30-70 balls, 20-80 balls. No business getting to. They were just ferocious out there. And that extra workload that they put on all of the Ajax players, where all of a sudden you need to sprint to every ball, that should just be routine possession, right? But now you've got to sprint to all of them. That has to wear on you. And that's on top of the fact that they're just faster than you.
Yes.
I think I feel totally comfortable saying they're the most athletic team in this entire tournament. Ajax won't be thrilled with this result, but I think they played pretty well. Rome Luchter, obviously a monster. You know, she manufactures goals for fun. Lily Johannes, great game as well for her. Regina Van Eyck, I think she played really solid, like I said, considering. Ajax looked dangerous in spots for sure. You know, they won the possession battle, more passes attempted, more passes completed. One more shot on target than PSG, more touches, more crosses, more corners for Ajax. They didn't play poorly at all. They just got beat by what we used to say about that Manchester United team on the men's side. Just too many singular moments of brilliance from the Parisians. And I mean, Ajax still very, very much alive. Quick note on the knockout stage permutations here. If PSG draw or win at Bayern, tall task, they're in straight away. If they lose at Bayern, now they need Roma to either win or draw at Ajax to advance to the quarters. So PSG, if they lose at Bayern and Ajax at home beats Roma, very, very possible. PSG is out. Like, this is fucking nuts. Like, we're talking about them maybe threatening. I mean, I think they're an absolute threat to reach the semifinals, maybe even the finals. We'll see what happens from there. But a couple bad breaks next week, and they might be out of the whole thing altogether. It's just fucking bonkers. Ajax, on the other hand, if they beat Roma at home, they advance. So let's fucking go. Come on. Let's get it together. Dust ourselves off and make it happen. Would love to see Ajax advance there. I still got a real soft spot for Roma too, so we'll see. If they draw or lose to Roma, they would need Bayern to draw or lose at home against PSG. Ajax, very importantly, holds the tiebreaker over Bayern. That's a done deal. They outpointed them. They outscored them in their head-to-heads. So they're in a good spot. So we'll just kind of have to see what happens. Definitely feels like this group is going to end really cruelly for two teams. And I have a feeling we could find ourselves in the dying embers of Matchday 6 and perhaps still not know how this group will shake out once the dust settles. All these Group C glorious fixtures are going down Tuesday, January 30th in the later time slot, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. Any predictions heading into the final match day? I'm interested to hear your reaction to my maybe PSG, maybe a team that maybe could be hoisting the trophy when it's all said and done. A lot of maybes in there.
If you're Lyon, are you psyched about playing them? Their fans can travel.
No.
And then you have to deal with their speed. And, you know, I talked about Ellie Carpenter and Selma Basha as two very fast players. That would be a track meet I would be very interested in watching. I'm not sure Lyon would be very interested in participating in it.
Real quick on that, we talk about the boxing corollary of like styles making fights. We got a real dose of that with Roma and Bayern Munich, where it was just, they were perfectly balanced sides, 2 matches, 4 goals on each side. PSG is going to be a tough matchup for a lot of teams, Lyon included, just because they're so dangerous. I mean, Ajax outstatted them across the board pretty much in this one. Pretty much every stat you look at, Ajax was either comfortably ahead or ahead, but they just kind of have that, snap of a finger ability to kind of flip a game. I mean, Ellie Carpenter is she's a race car.
Yeah.
But PSG's got 3 of those. So we see this too, like in American football, when we talk about, it's tough to beat a team 2 times in a year, 3 times in a year. There could be a little bit of that too, where when you won the first matchup, you don't learn so much from rewatching the tape. The team that loses is the one that I think has more opportunity to learn and pick up things.
For sure. And I think if you're Lyon, you probably look at us 2 American dopes and you say, hey guys, remember on October 1st in the league, we beat PSG, but they beat them 1-0. So that's close, but they beat them in Paris. And I know like we're obviously drawing way out, but PSG and Lyon, they play again on February 11th in D1F. So we might get that, and then we might get something else further in the tournament. But even if you're Barcelona, you can't be psyched about PSG's speed. I don't think you want those problems. So I love it. I think they're super live for our pals here in the States. And I guess, basketball is an international game too. Dino De Cespedes, Miami Heat fan, also a PSG fan. I think there are some corollaries here about like going fast, going hard. I feel like spiritually, they're kind of in the same vein.
There's a part of me that there's 3 teams in Group C that all have a piece of my heart.
That's true.
Bayern Munich's fine. Not my style, I would say, although they've got some players that I really enjoy watching. But Roma, Ajax, and PSG, I've got a soft spot for all 3. It's going to be hard not rooting for whoever makes it out of Group C into the quarters, just because I've been watching this group so closely. I mean, let's go. Let's fucking fast forward to next week already. It's almost here, 4 or 5 days away. Let's scoot ahead, though. Group D. Häcken 0, Paris FC 0. Something tells me this scoreline doesn't quite tell the story of the match.
Not at all, man. This game was fucking great. And it's one of the things I like about football compared to like NFL in the USA. If an NFL game ends 7-0, there are roughly 10 trillion things I would rather do than watch an NFL game with that final score. There are technically draws in the NFL. So if a game ended in a 0-0 draw in the NFL, it would be derided as one of the worst games ever played. And that's what I love about this type of football is this game had everything, and scoring chances and opportunities, and scoring itself is so difficult to come by. It was a cracker at 0-0. I cannot be told otherwise. In the first half, Häcken had 52% of the ball, so possession was close. Häcken they were able to look a little more dangerous throughout, but Paris FC's defense held up and played super tough. Per usual, Shimaka Inadozi was the absolute best player on the field. And I try not to, I know I do it sometimes, and I always say, I like a good overreaction, and I try not to go into full Twitter voice where everybody says, this is the best, and it's not close about like everything. And you're like, well, it actually is kind of close. Inadozi was the best player on the field, and it wasn't that close. I'm not like, I don't want to say like she was like far, far, far and away, but anybody watching the match was like, okay, that's the best player here. Like she did everything. She was snuffing out attacking chances before forwards could get in any real kind of dangerous position. The attacker would take their first touch, and Inadozi is already smothering the ball at their feet. Like her instincts, her intelligence back there is just a triple plus. She looked great throughout the first half. And then in the 19th minute, Clarissa Larissi, she plays a cross into the box. And I got to say, from the broadcast angles that we had, that ball really looked like it was over the end line. Tennyson Sissoko, I don't begrudge any player for like protecting their face because you just naturally have an instinctual way of protecting yourself. She put her hands up like a wide receiver or a tight end, going back to the NFL comparisons. Sissoko puts her hands up like this, which you do not see players do a lot. Puts both hands up and fucking double handballs the ball in the box.
Yeah.
But she also very clearly thought the ball was over the end line. It felt like it was mostly reaction from her, but also kind of like, hey, I thought the ball was out. She immediately looked pretty sick to her stomach when the ref was like, no, that's a handball. Like, you can't do that. And she was like, okay. Like, even if you do think the ball's out of play like that, you probably shouldn't go up and try to snatch it like you're Kellen Winslow.
That was a tough spot, and fully agree with you on Inadozie. Not only did she look great for maybe some of the insiders, more experienced soccer fans, but she also had one of the biggest plays in the match to the naked eye, which came as a direct result from this sort of gaffe from Sissoko.
Yeah, and so it's the handball. Sissoko, she looks sick. She's like, okay, well, there's really no arguing my way out of this. And here comes Rosa Kafaji. Young player, but a good player. A very skilled player.
Really good player.
Knows how to rip the ball into the back of the net. And now it's put him on the boxing poster. Put Kafaji and Inadozie just right up in front of each other, face to face. And what do you know? Inadozie reads it perfectly, knew exactly where Kafaji was going with it, was all over it, pushes it away with a great dive, strong hands, strong dive. Kafaji immediately puts her hands on her head like, oh shit, she read it the whole way. And that kind of play, if you're Häcken, I just feel like everybody has to look at each other and be like, it's going to take a lot today. It's going to take a lot to beat her.
Yeah, that was a golden opportunity. Inadozie, to say that she stuffed it would almost be an understatement. Yeah. I described Manuel Giuliano's goal earlier as a no doubter. This penalty kick was a no chancer. This one was just straight DOA. And Inadozie was all over it. Kafaji knew right away that she whiffed on it. But shout out to Rosa Kafaji because her ability to create offense for Häcken.
Great.
Once she has the ball and she gets a chance to look up field, she's just putting the ball right in the pathway of anybody that's interested. Just having her on your side, knowing, okay, Rosa got the ball, I'm going to start sprinting. And there's a 50-50 shot. The ball's just going to roll right into my path. She's unbelievable at that. Real luxury to kind of have a player like that on your team. Great watching her play. Kind of bummed for her in this moment just because it was a tough spot.
For sure. And she's that's a really great point about her play. She has that style where it's like the players running around her. You can be excited off the ball because Kafaji will find you in the right spot. So It's like it helps the energy of the entire club when she's on the ball. And a great point about Häcken trying to create those opportunities. Here's a telling stat that I really thought matched up, at least with my eye test as I was watching the pitch. I'm curious your thoughts on it. In the first half, Perry FC won aerial duels 10-0 over Häcken. They were winning everything out of the air. And I got to say, that is a really great showing against a team that features multiple Nordic players. It speaks to Perry FC's team building and their culture of size and toughness to kind of make sure they're winning those.
Perry FC is just a tough squad.
Yep.
Everybody went to Häcken and struggled there in this group stage. And this, is in the running for the best performance for a visiting team going to Gothenburg. I think Sawyer had a great game. Who's looked, not 100% on point like the whole, tournament. She was awesome. Ulhosin, she just keeps getting better and better. Talking about Basha and Lucy Bronze, players like that are just end line to end line. She's sort of working her way into that mix where she's just like, I feel comfortable sniffing around here. I know I can get back. I'm not afraid of anything going on here.
Yep.
She's playing great. It's just a nice mix of young players, more athletic players, more physical players, some veterans. And I think that's just kind of what makes them so dangerous. They have so many different moves they can go to.
That's a great point. Selena Hosin, young player, full of energy. And then she has the crafty, smart veteran of Sawyer right there next to her. And yeah, you nailed it, man. Sawyer had some super key interventions where things were looking like they could have been a little dicey, where obviously you like your chances with Inadozie anytime, but without some of those Sawyer interventions, you would have had some 1v1 against the keeper situations that you never know how they're going to go. Speaking of Hosin, I'm glad you mentioned her. So the second half, it played out a little slower than the first half. Inadozie, she just kept producing more magic. She has a leaping save, punches the ball over the bar in the 52nd minute and very clearly gets a cramp. And because Selena Hosin only plays and does anything at 100 miles per hour, or I think it's 161 kilometers per hour, she runs over to help stretch out Inadozie's leg with the cramp, and very clearly is way too aggressive trying to stretch out Inadozie. And you can see Inadozie on the ground be like, hey, chill. Oh, easy with me here. And that really made me laugh. Hosin is just She like is Kool-Aid man, like just kicked down the fucking door, burst through the wall. You know, we've talked about it. She has a pretty slight frame, but she's coming for you. Fast as fuck and tough as fuck, no matter what. Even if you're her teammate and she needs to stretch out your cramp, apparently.
I'm 6'3", clocking in somewhere in the 230s these days. And I feel like on a 50-50 ball, she would put me on my ass.
Yeah.
I feel pretty confident saying that. Yeah, she's just a bulldog out there. And, I thought, Tine had chances. Mateo had chances. They looked very, it was just one of those games. It was a 0-0 cracker, one of the best types of games that you can get. Both teams very much alive, to advance. Häcken obviously in an advantage position with regard to being able to get out of this group. Yep. But Perry FC just right there, they're not going away. They were the original giant killers coming into this group stage. And going into match day 6, they've still got a shot.
Yeah, so Häcken needs to get at least the same number of points or better than Perry FC to make it through. Häcken will be taking on Real Madrid in Spain. Perry is playing Chelsea in France. I feel like that's a recipe for some high drama.
Absolutely, especially considering that, Häcken was the team that kind of like broke Real Madrid, like really when they really needed a win, and Olga's just throwing everything that she can at that Häcken defense. I think there could be a little bit of get back, on the Madrid side where they're just like, we're not making it through and this team's making it through. Like, I don't know. I could see them really turn it up. And then you've got Chelsea, who has the group locked up, going to France to play Paris FC. They've obviously got multiple competitions that they've got their eye on. So we'll see what kind of a lineup they roll out there. But that's a real opportunity for Paris. And I believe, Häcken holds a tiebreaker over Paris, right?
Yeah, because Häcken beat them 2-1 back in November.
Yeah, so then they got it. So even if Häcken lose, Paris FC draws, Häcken still advances. But again, a lot of different combinations of what could happen for that second spot here in Group D. In the other Group D matchup, though, aforementioned Chelsea 2, Real Madrid 1. What'd you see in this one?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Real Madrid maybe having that little bit of attitude when they meet Häcken. So Real Madrid, they're pretty much long eliminated from this. They had some bad luck. And frankly, they got beat in their earlier matches. But Real Madrid, they come to Stamford Bridge. They just weren't going to lay down. We talked about it like in the preview pod. They're Real Madrid going to play at Stamford Bridge. Even with Olga not in the lineup, they played with an energy. They did not look like, oh, this is an exhibition, let's not get hurt, let's save it for Liga F or anything like that. They came out there to win the damn game. The only tricky part is Johanna Rytting-Kanerud is a Swedish bullet train driving the ball down the field. In the 5th minute, she took the ball. She had to carry the ball 85 yards up the field and setting up a Cuthbert shot right there in the first 5 minutes of the match, and that felt like a bit of a tone setter. I thought Madrid, they tried to play with pace. I'm going to kick it to you because ever since the World Cup, you are the Into the Channel chief Linda Caicedo expert. But man, she plays, and this isn't breaking news, but she plays with such a decisive, speedy brilliance that there were just multiple times in the first half where she was like, oh, Ashley Lawrence is in front of me. I'll take her on. I'll take on Kadisha Buchanan. I'll take on Jess Carter. I'll take on Neem Charles. It felt like she put all 4 of those good to very good defenders in compromising positions throughout the first 45.
Yeah, she definitely put all 4 on her mixtape. She was, dazzling in spots.
Crazy.
Her sort of like start-stop ability is just off the charts.
Yep.
She could just stop and then she's immediately going full speed in a different direction. And you just don't really see that from anybody else. We talked about some of the straight-ahead speed, from like a Baltimore or Chewinga or an Ellie Carpenter. But this is different. This is quick bursts. She's super fast. I think the only thing that gives me a little pause is another NFL comparison here. In the NFL, you kind of have to learn how to fall down and get hit and not fall and hurt yourself. And it sort of feels like she needs to do a little bit better along that very fine but important dimension of the game, which is like, hey, don't go out there and take beatings because that's what players are going to try to do. Sometimes you might be able to take it on because there's a small crevice, but there's like a 50-50 chance that you might take a knee to the thigh or bone on bone or something real nasty. And she took a couple couple knocks in this one. I think I'd like to see her be maybe a little less daring in those tight spots and maybe kind of preserve herself physically. She did take a couple knocks as well in the World Cup. But once she kind of gets into her own with regard to her game and really wraps her mind around harnessing like her God-given ability and the ability that she's built up with years and years of playing the sport, she's just going to be a nightmare. She's an offense in and of herself.
That's a really good point. And so you have to hope that with age, some of that, like, okay, where am I picking my spots? How am I falling? What's like my out? Almost like kind of like defensive driving, if you think about it. Like, okay, when I run into this spot, like where can I fall safely if it comes to that? Like not looking to fall down. I see exactly what you're saying. I think that's a really sharp point. I will say, staying on the Real Madrid side, Claudia Zanorja, she's fucking great, man. Every time she plays, I'm impressed with her play out of the midfield. Great control, smart decisions, good long passes, creating chances for her teammates. Pretty much every match. But Chelsea did control most of the first half, and it really felt like they ratcheted up the pressure in the last 10 to 15 minutes of the first half. Kind of like, let's finish strong. Let's kind of see if we can get one in before the halftime whistle. And if not, we're coming out of the locker room ready to kind of put this game away.
Yeah, you mentioned the hot start from Canarud. No LJ in this game,
Yep.
Or at least in the first half. I agree with you. Canarud to Cuthbert really kind of set the tone. I put in my notes early. I kid you not. Cuthbert in full on, I feel like scoring a goal today mode.
Yep.
She was just like letting it rip. They definitely made Real Madrid keeper Mylene Chavez do a ton of work in that first half.
Yeah.
The pressure was on from the beginning. It felt pretty inevitable that Chelsea was going to break through at some point. But I did want to rewind just real quick. It reminded me when we were talking about Caicedo and her speed and quickness giving Chelsea fits. When we were talking about PSG earlier, I think Chelsea's one of those matchups that, PSG might be a little bit of their kryptonite.
Yeah.
The speed and like Chelsea, I think, plays a more rough and tumble kind of game. But on the back line might be a little tricky dealing with all of that athleticism. But I think that maybe is a preview for another day. But that is one of those sort of like fun thought experiments that we're going to get into pretty quick here as we approach the knockout stage draw.
Yeah, it's a great point. I won't belabor it too much, but I think that's one of the beautiful parts about football. I mean, you think about, obviously, Chelsea, they're a WSL side. They're based in London. Their manager is English, and Emma Hayes. They play English football. And so then when you go and you play a Real Madrid or you play Barcelona or something like that, now it's a clash of styles, and you have to see kind of what happens. So yeah, I'm totally in on that. Yeah, Chelsea, I can't wait for the draw. I would agree with you. They do not want to see PSG. Getting into the second half, Chelsea took that momentum from the end of the first half. You mentioned they bring on Lauren James. Chelsea puts her pretty much at that number 10 role. Chelsea continued to play long passes into dangerous areas. That paid off when Neem Charles drove the ball into the box and drew a foul from Haley Rasso. Rasso's played well throughout the tournament, and she's a good player. I thought it was pretty telling. She gave a really half-hearted argument to the ref. She knew what time it was. That was late. It was unnecessary. It was a clattering challenge. And shout out to Flo Pollock, who was on the call. Also, quick side note, Flo Pollock, one of the best Twitter handles. She doesn't seem very active on Twitter, but her Twitter handle is @FootballFlo. Can't do better than that, Flo. Nicely done. But when the foul happened, Flo Pollock was like aghast at it. She goes, "Oh, that's really late." like she knew right. Like that was a clear penalty. No doubt about it. Rasso knew it too. And then speaking of confident penalty takers, Guro Wrighton steps up.
Come on, man.
That's not happening. That's not going any other way. That's a goal. Guro Wrighton steps up to the spot. That is a goal. Sent the keeper the wrong way. Completely drills it. It's bottom corner. Nothing any goalkeeper's really doing about that.
Yeah, that one had some mustard on it.
For sure.
Great crowd too at Chelsea. I mean, I think
yeah.
PSG had a great crowd as well, but Chelsea right up there. They were pretty raucous. And I think at that moment, a little bit of pent up energy in the building, even though they're kind of in the driver's seat, but I think they wanted to see a performance and they got to like really let loose after that Wrighton goal. And yeah, absolute no doubter.
Oh yeah. I'll say I've been known to overthink some things. And, we joke like, what does this sport need? It needs two American bros talking about it. I will say when you talk about the crowd there, something makes me laugh. I want to see what the guy looks like. Likely he's a West Londoner. I want to see the guy. I want to see what the guy looks like who's doing that chant that I fucking have heard for so many, that "Come on Chelsea, come on Chelsea," with that fucking London accent that he has. I want to know what that guy looks like. I want to meet that gentleman.
And how did he get a seat right next to Flo Pollock? That's what I want to know.
For the love of God, he's so loud. He's so loud.
Oh, my God. Yeah, but, you got him going.
There you go. So Chelsea held the ball. They kept the pressure up after that goal. But another Real Madrid player, Athena Del Castillo, she gets Las Blancas back on level terms. Caroline Muller-Hansen, she plays a great long pass across the field. It's like diagonal, cutting completely across the field. Yeah. Hits it to Haley Rasso, who is able to fire a shot. Keeper couldn't hold it, and Castillo is right there to bang it in the 69th minute. I mean, the pass from Muller-Hansen, that's the piece to me.
That pass from Muller-Hansen, the only thing I can compare it to is prime Tiger Woods just smacking a ball right down the middle of the fairway, just beautifully, like, oh, right there's where you want the ball to go. Right there's where the ball is going to go. You just get to watch it.
Beautiful.
It looked like a painting, just watching like the camera angle too. Like there was just, that perfect channel right there. And you just get to watch the ball just like a Tiger Woods drive.
That is such a great point. There was something satisfying about the ball flight, to use a golf terminology. Like it was just like, It was just like flying through there so gracefully. They draw level on that. But even then, it still felt pretty short-lived just because Chelsea looked the better side. This was not exactly a worldie of a goal, but Chelsea continues to stack on the pressure. And what do you know? Erin Cuthbert, she hits a hard shot. Anything she's doing, it's going to have pace. It's going to have aggression behind it. Chavez gets her hands on it, but then essentially pops it in her own net. Because if Erin Cuthbert is running at you and then kicking a ball at you as hard as she can, you're just kind of like, oh no, whoa, like what am I going to do? And so she ends up popping it into her own net. The goal was the winner, and this might sound weird. That was the winner, but it didn't really feel like the difference. It felt like the difference was, and we have some bias here. We talk about Lauren James all the time. When Lauren James comes on in the second half and she's just dragging defenders whichever direction she goes, and then you have all these other threatening players that we've mentioned on the pitch, it felt like the difference was just that Chelsea, as it stands right now, is a better squad. But it's interesting to see. I think they call it an own goal on Chavez, and they didn't give Cuthbert credit for it. But it felt like the difference was bigger than that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I was just really appreciative of the Cuthbert. I'm going to muscle this ball.
100%. Yeah.
And like I said, she just had that look in her eye. She was just like, I'm getting a goal today, one way or the other. I'm going to put my foot on the ball, and the ball's going to go in the back of the net. And she got it done. ITC starting 11. No regrets there.
Hell no. Hell no. She deserved to be in any. The fact that she wasn't even nominated, again, we support any players' associations. I support any players' unions. But FIFA Pro, come on, man. Come on. Like Erin Cuthbert, she has to be in there. Too great of a player. Too much of an engine for one of the best teams in the world. Save that for another. Well, go back and watch our ITC starting 11 from 2023. Why not? I mean, we reference it. I think we put together some good squads. And as my guy Dino said on Twitter multiple times when FIFA Pro published their starting 11, that squad, no chance against either of our teams.
0.
That's a 2-0 win.
Easy.
Yeah.
Home, away, doesn't matter.
Yeah, neutral, whatever. Anyway, we digress. So Chelsea, they're guaranteed to advance heading into match day 6, but they got to play Perry FC. And we've already talked about, Perry FC, they're going to need to come in there and win that match. The reverse fixture was on match day 1. Chelsea rode a Sam Kerr hat trick to a 4-1 victory. Obviously, the news about Sam Kerr really sucks. It's devastating that she suffered that injury. But in the famous words of a Baltimore-based businessman, Slim Charles, the thing about the old days is that they're the old days. And this is not the same Perry FC.
Hell yeah.
They have grown in confidence. I think they're going to come in here and honestly, you mentioned Chelsea has other competitions to worry about. Chelsea might look at this as some time to rest. I think Perry FC, I will make a prediction on this one. I think Perry FC is going to win that football match.
Wow. That would be huge because that means that Häcken has to go to Madrid
and win. Yeah. Which I think is super live.
I mean, just get me there. Just fucking get me to these matches already.
Yeah.
I cannot wait. So Chelsea, they've clinched the 1 spot. Like you said, they're not going to have a ton to play for when they take on Paris, but we'll see. And as a reminder, Häcken holds the tiebreaker over Paris FC. So Paris FC is going to have to win this game against Chelsea and hope that BK Häcken is unable to win on their trip to Madrid. And then in that instance, Paris FC might actually sneak into the quarters. High drama in Group D.
I mean, it's hard to even rank them 1 through 4. I think we could probably rank the groups in terms of drama 1 through 3. Ranking them 1 through 3 is pretty difficult. Not a ton of drama in the next group we're going to discuss. But in terms of groups B, C, and D, hard to parse like what's been the most exciting.
I mean, I'm in the tank for Group C. It's just been a freaking roller coaster. Even after the 9th match of Group C, still on a 0-goal differential for all the teams.
That's pretty incredible.
PSG's 3-1 over Ajax for it to knock it off of 0 all the way across the board.
Yeah, that's wild. So if you made me choose, I think I would say Group C, Group D, and then Group B, probably in terms of like drama. But then the level of interest, I'm just so in the tank for Brann and Group B that like I'm so locked into those matches.
Group B, though, is like we pretty much knew that it was Lyon and Brann.
Right.
Pretty early.
Yeah.
Group D's had some intrigue too with Paris FC coming out a little bit late. Let's fast forward to Group A, where the champions reside. But we're going to get started in the earlier match, Rosengård 2, Benfica 2. The lineups and the formations were the story, I think, going into this one. Rosengård opts for a back 3 with a more attacking type formation, and it showed early. Rosengård played like this was their fucking Super Bowl.
Yep.
Their last home match of the Champions League campaign, and they played really, really well. Easily their best group stage showing. On the Benfica side, no Kika Nazareth, no Lucia Alves, no real cohesion to start this match. Very much a herky-jerky start for Benfica. Rosengård captain Olivia Skoo, I think around 22 minutes in, perfectly placed gem, top right corner, Lena Powell's, 0 chance to save it. A simple but perfectly placed, perfectly weighted pass from Ria Uling, who notches the assist. I mean, I'm really starting to gain a appreciation for these assists that essentially make the goal.
Yep.
It's a little bit different than a basketball assist or even a hockey assist. You could put a ball somewhere and put your attacking player in a position where all they've got to do is just the most basic of touches. And this one was from pretty far out, but the pass was just genius, you know, and it was simple, but I mean, it was genius. 1-0 at the half. Halftime stats were pretty wild. Possession 50-50. Pass accuracy 83% for Benfica, 83% for Rosengård. Benfica, 237 passes. Rosengård, 233 passes. 6 shots for Benfica, 5 for Rosengård. I mean, this was like as even as it gets. 53rd minute, Andrea Faria, she fires in a rocket that I think Rosengård keeper Angel Mukasa might have been able to handle a little bit better, but she's unable to get a hand on it. The strike was so good, though, that the ball bounces straight down after hitting the post. So it's just kind of knocking around a yard outside the goal. Jessica Silva, she flies in to bury it, 1-1. She had been kind of like poking around the goal. Like she was looking for opportunities big time. She was in the right place, right time. And now Benfica are level. 4 minutes later, though, misplayed back pass from Emma Janssen. Mimi Aladou swipes it. Still a ton to do after the interception. Aladou's got to swerve like around Mukasa. Then she's forced into making like a lunging strike, which she slots home anyway. I love those like kind of lunging strikes where all you can do is you're just like, I just have to like reach this but perfectly placed. Slots it in 2-1 Benfica. They're losing their minds. All they needed as a reminder was to equal the points that Frankfurt was able to put up against Barcelona.
Yep.
So Benfica's looking for the win. That clinches it. If they draw here, they're still in prime position, but they definitely wanted the win. Rosengård, though, not done. Kadawaki, their striker, who had a really, really great game. I think her best game as well. She ties it at 2. Again, really made possible by Ria Uling, who takes a pass from Amelia Larsson. Tremendous touch, tremendous control. Then like a full 180-degree turn and pass right into Kadawaki's path. Again, creating a goal for her striker. And Kadawaki's running free because the pass was just so absurd that why would anyone think that she's going to be able to get onto a ball? Uling's facing the wrong way, a total swivel, and just, I mean, a beautiful pass. Delicate, perfectly weighted, super easy put away. 2-2. Uling's second assist. She was an absolute boss in this match. Thoroughly entertaining match. Very interested to hear if anything stuck out to you in this one.
Uling looked like the best player on the pitch. I'm totally with you on that. Group A has kind of been your group to really kind of spearhead our coverage on it. I've tried to make myself familiar with the players, and obviously we watched the games, bro, all that good stuff. But it felt like her best performance. And she's a general out there. And you're right about like the combination, like the crosshairs of this pass is perfectly timed, but we never in American sports use the perfectly weighted. Like we'll say like, oh, he hit him in stride or like whatever, but the weight of her passes, just knowing like I'm going to strike this with my right foot and it's going to die right around there. And that's where I need the ball to really slow down for my striker to get in the path of it. Just genius level stuff. The shot that rips off the crossbar, they had Angel Mukasa beat, but it's an interesting strategy because Mukasa's been another keeper who's had a lot of good showings in this tournament. Turns out a helpful way to beat her is to use the crossbar as your friend to get the ball to Jessica Silva. So I think you're right. Silva was out there. She was playing to score a goal from the first minute. Like, she was walking out of the tunnel like, yeah, I'm scoring today. Like, this is happening. And she made it known. So I thought it was a hell of a match. You're right about Katawaki. 2-2, it felt fair enough. But I think Rosengård, if they would have won that match, I think it would have been deserved. But if you're Benfica, that's great to scratch out a draw there.
I'm watching it. I'm also, Benfica's in one of the teams of my heart as well.
Yep.
Bummed to see no Kika Nazareth. I mentioned no Alves and Nicole Reisler on the bench. So
yeah,
it was like kind of her time to shine a little bit. Ali Du obviously as well. So those are their two kind of like money players up top. I was a little bit bummed when they gave up the second, something, but I'm like, yeah, Benfica's still probably going through. And then I zoom out and I'm like, this team, got waxed last year in the group stage. Like, it was over before it started. And I think we kind of knew going in, okay, it's going to be them or Frankfurt for that second spot. So to go to Rosengård, kind of battle the weather, battle a team that's pretty well rested and scratch a draw out of that when you really need something, you need a result. Like, a lot of times that could create some pressure. I think it was Gaspar who got interviewed. You mentioned it earlier. Shout out to the Zone for, sort of putting some more content out in front of us. But she got interviewed and she was like, I think we came out a little nervous. And I think, the nerves start to kind of go away. And hopefully in the second half, we just need to come out, not be nervous, and things will be all right. And that's exactly kind of like what they did. It's a very prescient take from her on that. But credit to Benfica. They were down 1-0 on the road, tough environment, and they get out of there 2-2 with a point, and they advance, based on the result that we're going to hit on coming up next year.
Yeah, I mean, and we've talked about it. We've talked about it since the Women's World Cup. Like, Portugal is kind of like an ascending women's footballing culture. They have I think it goes without saying, they have an incredible footballing infrastructure from the men's game over there. And so for them to kind of walk in and be like, okay, we know it's going to be either them or Eintracht Frankfurt, and Germany is a couple steps ahead of them in women's footballing culture, to see them really gut this out. You always talk about with them, that's a testament to toughness, the combination of toughness and intelligence for them to kind of to gut this out the way they did.
It's a mental toughness too.
Absolutely.
Because physically they don't play the toughest kind of game. They play kind of like a wide open, little bit of a mad scramble type of game. Talk about a bad matchup. If they do meet Brann at some point down the road, that's going to be the lineup 11 ice baths by the end of that one. But they've got like a very fun kind of wide open style that I really appreciate, really enjoy watching. Really hoping that when we do get to the knockout stage, they've got all their big guns. It feels like we're watching this team grow up a little bit, which is a good time.
For sure.
Let's scoot ahead though. Last matchup of the day, a little team called Barcelona.
Oh yeah, them.
Yeah, Barcelona 2, Eintracht Frankfurt 0 on a day where Frankfurt needed a result here. Weren't able to get it done. I was a little bit surprised by the lineups. Barca brought out their big dog lineup in this one.
It's crazy.
Mariona Caldente, CGH, Salma Pariuelo, Bonmati, Kira Wash, Ona Batier, Batri, Irene Paredes, Lucy Bronze, Ingrid Engen, and World Cup champion Katakoye in goal, just for good measure.
Come on.
Was interested to see how Frankfurt would play this one. They hung in there pretty good. They had chances throughout, but ultimately they were probably most of the time 2 or 3 more good touches away from really threatening the champs. They managed just 5 shots, 0 on target, a real testament to what Barcelona could do when they don't want to let you do anything. They just kind of make it impossible. Almost 70% possession for Barcelona. They completed 402 more passes than Frankfurt. 402 more passes. Frankfurt only attempted 343 in the game.
All right. Great.
Just insane. Passing accuracy advantage to 84% to 71%. 71% means Frankfurt, they're completing less than 3 out of every 4 passes. Hard to win that way, especially against this Barcelona side. Barcelona was 0% scared of Frankfurt. Their left and right backs, Onabatier, Lucy Bronze, spent the evening just strolling up and down the park, moseying around to wherever they liked. With regards to the actual scoring, though, Batri blasted a fucking laser in the 19th minute from outside the 18th. 73rd minute, CGH, not to be outdone, she thumps her own missile, also from outside the 18, to make it 2-0 Barca and pretty much close the book on this year's run to the quarters for Eintracht Frankfurt. And imagine being so good, having so much offensive firepower, that your attacking players don't even need to get the ball into the box for you to score.
It's crazy.
Oh, I've got a little look here. Let me just fucking rip it. With all that said, though, this wasn't the same unstoppable Barca attack. Bonmati, she had a little trouble getting going, but I think that's really kind of a testament to what Frankfurt was trying to do defensively. You know, with Dorsun, who played really solid. She's had like a great group. I just love watching her play.
Great.
Sophie Kleinhorn, she's young, also had a really good showing. They didn't make it easy for Barcelona, but things did look a little tiny bit disorganized for Barca. Maybe it's because there were basically no stakes for them after Benfica's draw that clinched the 1 seed for them. Maybe has to do with the impending move to NWSL for current manager Jonathan Giraldez, or maybe they're just a little bit bored and we need to just fast forward already to the quarters where they might actually have to break a sweat in one of these matches.
I think you said it perfectly, man. Eintracht Frankfurt, they have good defensive players. They create a good shell, and they very clearly have enough skill to muddy things a little bit for the champs. We saw them do that in the first half of the reverse fixture when they played Barcelona. But then where I think you really said it perfectly is that the German side, they're always 2, 3, 4 perfect touches away from making things really, really interesting. And when you're asking your players, like, hey, I just need like 2 or 3 more absolutely perfect pinpoint passes, and then we'll really be cooking, they got to be looking at it around like, well, I'm not going to be able to do that because every single Barcelona player is all over me every time I have the fucking ball.
And just to add a little bit of the math to that, you're completing less than 3 out of every 4 passes. So if you need another 4 touches before you get to the third one, that's the end of the sequence.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly right. And, it looked like Freigang who has also comported herself very well throughout this tournament. Freigang, she looked like she could have equalized around the 57th minute. She had a decent look. It would have taken a really brilliant touch. And even then, I bring this up in football because I think it's a real thing. You could have just pissed off Barca at that point, and maybe you lose 4-1. You may have refocused them if she gets that. Now, there's also the flip side of that because I don't want to totally downplay Frankfurt. Maybe Freigang gets that equalizer, it ends up finishing 2-2, or maybe Frankfurt pulls off the stunner and wins 2-1 or something like that. But all in all, it was cool to watch Frankfurt in this tournament, and we talk about this. We say this is like a learning podcast. We're diving into all these international club teams for the first time. Frankfurt is a good watch. I look forward to watching more of their matches in the future. It was a good education on a lot of their players. But I'm with you. When that Barcelona lineup gets published, I was just like, are they going to play like this is the final? Why is everybody out there? And then you mentioned it, there are so many players to talk about. We don't talk about Patrick Guijarro. We gotta start carving out more time to talk about how great she fucking is. She's unreal. And is she the 3rd best player on the squad? Is she the 5th best player on the squad? I don't know. But there's got to be a long line of elite squads who would pay a lot of money to make her their best player.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, they've just got talent everywhere, even deep on the bench. We saw some of the young players come in. I think Vicky Lopez came in and she's 10 years old or something ridiculous.
Right.
She almost gets a goal 5 seconds into coming into the match. Just totally unfair. But yeah, just to rewind a little bit to Frankfurt, Nicola Nyomi, I think she played really great. She was giving them chances, at least trying to find some daylight with some full intensity runs. Prasnikar, very offensive minded in this one. She took her chances. That was pretty much the end of it. They got right into the final third, and as soon as they kind of stepped foot in there, felt like most of their possessions, it was a wrap at that point. But yeah, we'll welcome them back next season. They played tough, but again, this is group stage. A lot of good teams are going to end up going home. Some of them already eliminated. 5 teams eliminated. 11 are still alive for the 8 spots, and then we'll finalize, all of the 1s and 2s next week with regard to where everybody finished. So next week, the Group A matchups, pretty much a formality. Barcelona at Benfica, Rosengård at Eintracht Frankfurt. At this point, just want to see everyone in Group A go out there, have a good time, shake hands after the match, maybe go out for a slice of pizza, milkshake or 2, and then we all go about our business.
I like it. I mean, you got to wonder, are we going to get more target practice for Patry and CGH? Is it going to be some good cardio for Benfica? I mean, you talk about the development of Benfica, maybe they'll be mixing in some push-ups, dumbbell curls out there on the sideline. Just everybody go out there, try to get ready for the knockout stage. But either way, Group A, you were largely what we thought you'd be. and you gave us some pretty good memories. So, shout to them. I would say it was and no fault of the other three teams involved, Barcelona made it look like the way people thought it would look.
I agree with that. I mean, we do have a little bit of an opportunity next week. Benfica having clinched their first trip to the quarterfinals, knockout stage. Barcelona coming to town. How about we all show up for that match?
I like it.
Let's get a rowdy atmosphere. Let's celebrate where we're at. It's one of those where kind of playing with house money a little bit, not expecting to beat Barcelona necessarily, but who knows what kind of team they roll out. So I'm excited to watch this one.
That's a great call. Yeah, I think their supporters, Barcelona doesn't come to town a lot. So show up and show out. That should be a party. And you're walking in knowing we're going to the knockout stage. So why not celebrate your squad that way and, maybe tip a beverage or two and just enjoy yourself.
There you go. And who knows, we might see this team a little later down the road. We'll see. I wanted to zoom out and put a question forth, and we can end on this. What would you say is your single biggest takeaway spanning all 8 Matchday 5 matchups? Anything in particular that you saw that can have like an effect through the rest of the proceedings, maybe all the way into the final?
We talk about them a lot. We have a lot of great fucking goalkeepers and a lot of great backlines in this tournament. And if you're going to win this tournament, you better, because the striking skill, the attacking skill is just unreal. It's hard to even, we talked about Katoto, Baltimore, and Chewinga earlier. Now you have Perejuelo, you have CGH, you have Patry, you have Sinja Gaupset, you have Raquel Engesvik. You have these players from all these different countries who can hit a wonder strike from anywhere. But you have to have your great backlines to make those as difficult as possible. And then you have to have a keeper who's able to wow you. So I think there is an offense-defense factor here and maybe this is a little trite, but you're not winning this tournament playing one way. You're not parking the bus and praying for a counterattack goal to win this tournament. You have to attack also, or else you're not giving yourself a chance.
Yeah, and that kind of makes me think about that Häcken side
that
is just so tough to score on. They're so compact defensively, really good goalkeeping from Falk. And, they went up against another stonewall of a team in Paris FC. I think whichever of those two make it through, they've got a style that's going to be tough to contend with when you think about the back four. I think that's a really great call. My big takeaway from these matches is I wonder if a team from Group C, probably thinking more about PSG in this instance, having gone through the ringer that is, that group where all these matches are like level 10, 6 matches, there'll be 540 minutes of gotta have it football.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to see what the Group C winners or runner-ups look like against like a Chelsea side or a Lyon or a Barcelona, who all 3 of those teams advanced straight to the group stage.
Yep.
They didn't have any kind of qualifying, so they're really just 5 games into the Champions League at this point. And I'm really interested to see if some of this activity has hardened some of these teams, again, like a Brann, like an Ajax, like a, Häcken, Paris FC, even a Benfica, that's had to kind of scrap, I think it's going to be interesting to see what maybe the first half of football in those knockout stage matches looks like. If some of these teams that are going to come in as favorites look a little surprised, or to your point, have a little trouble breaking through a back four that's really in sync, really in rhythm.
I love it. I don't know if it's not really a sports cliche, but I love the sports talk narratives. I feel like we got a battle-tested versus elite play narrative here that we see in sports of like, okay, I'm the team, I won the bye, or, whatever, speaking about American sports, but like, I'm the team who's crushed everybody. I have the big point differential. And then you have the team, it's like, well, this team wins a lot of close games. This team has had to like really fight and has formed an identity and have a togetherness that maybe can't be built if you're just smashing everybody 5-0. So I love that. I love that as a narrative, man. I think you're spot on there.
Obviously, we can end on this. That hits home with me so closely when I think about PSG, because they look like such dog shit the first 2 weeks. And you called it out, when you talk about Elisa de Almeida, who I really do think she took that one-on-one against Valentina Giacinti super personal.
Yeah.
She was like, nah, you're not going to come out here and punk me. She did the punking.
And
then like her whole team fucking followed suit, and they've been scorching hot since then. So when you talk about a team that's finding its identity, I think you hit it right on the head with regard to thinking about what that PSG team might look like going into the quarters.
I love it, man. This knockout stage is going to be fire. Like, this is just going to be what a tournament so far. The group stage was fantastic. The knockout stage is going to be even better. I realize this is our first time really closely following the UEFA Women's Champions League, but man, has it lived up to all my expectations and exceeded them in a lot of ways.
I totally agree with that. Yeah, best Champions League I've ever watched.
There you go.
Anything else you want to hit? Anything else you want to hit before we get out of here?
I think that's it. I think for the folks who pay close enough attention to us, we like to throw in an Into the Channel, Into the News. There are a lot of juicy matchups these last 2 days. We'll do some Into the News maybe next show. I know some things happen. I know your Orlando Pride traded Messiah Bright today to Angel City, which, gotta tell you, as somebody who roots for Seattle Reign, not psyched about that. I mean, I know it's not really conferences or anything like that, but I look at Angel City as a little bit of a rival for kind of West Coast supremacy in the NWSL. Don't love that. Don't love Messiah Bright going to play for Angel City. Think she'll be very good.
Yeah, I think she's going to be very good wherever she lands. But that one hurt. Not happy to see that. On the flip side, though, shout out to Myra Ramirez, if you remember the World Cup. Myra Ramirez, large.
That was great. I forgot about that.
Yeah, largest transfer fee, I think, in the history of women's football, bumping Kira Walsh into second place. $500,000 for the transfer fee for one of our favorite Colombian strikers, who will now be maybe trying to get into the mix at Chelsea. And I tweeted this earlier, making Emma Hayes' job a little easier and a little harder at the same time.
An embarrassment of riches over there. I think if you're the NWSL, I'm going to look at it from the American angle again. You got to watch out for this. You have to look out for the WSL because they're going to pay. And I did see, I guess we are kind of doing a little bit of Into the News, but yeah, I think you're exactly right. I mean, you have to look. Now, I did see some reporting from Soccer Donna on Twitter, at Soccer Donna. They had mentioned, I think it was last week or the week before, that an NWSL club did offer a massive transfer fee to Levante in Liga F for Alba Redondo, but Levante said, no, we'll go ahead and keep our strike, $500,000 isn't going to score 27 goals for us in the league. But if you're the NWSL, you got to pony up, man. You better pay these fees, these transfer fees to these clubs if you want to keep up. So let's get these elite athletes paid. And from my very selfish point of view, let's get some teams over here paying those fees. Here's looking at you, Seattle Reign. I would like to see us buy some more players. If you haven't noticed, there's been a little bit of an exodus from our squad. We might need to pay to get some new players on the squad.
Couple open spots.
I would say.
All right, man. I think we did it. It's been another episode of Into the Channel. Subscribe or follow us YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to watch or listen. Comments, ratings, reviews, Brann jerseys, all of them, always appreciated. At ITC_pod on X, at Into the Channel pod on Threads. Big thank you to my co-host, Mr. Grand Angle, for surviving the group stage.
We're making it through, buddy. We're through. We're hyped about it, but we still got Matchday 6. High drama. I think we're in for an absolute doozy here.
Cannot wait. Yeah, let's go. Fast forward me to Tuesday already.
Let's go. And I'll talk to you soon, buddy.